Verizon customers. The White House says the practice is a crucial tool to fighting terrorism. Kate Moody has more on the move, which has put privacy watchdogs as criticized as stunning and illegal.
Millions of people's phone records reported to the U.S. government. The secret court order, first published by the UK's Guardian newspaper, covers the phone numbers and duration, but not the content, of phone calls made by customers of Verizon, one of America's largest telecommunications firms. NSA computers can analyze that data, looking for patterns and numbers that could be tied to extremism or foreign governments, and then request permission for a wiretap to monitor the content of the calls. Lawmakers said the court order was a 3-month renewal of an ongoing practice, while civil liberties groups described the revelation as a stunning breach of privacy.
This order is directed toward U.S. customers of Verizon engaged in telephone communications with other people in the United States. There is no reference to foreign intelligence investigation, no reference to foreign governments. It is an open-ended type of warrant that I think is illegal.
The White House defended the practice as critical to monitoring suspected terrorists, and a top congressman said it had prevented a significant attack in the past few years. But reaction has been mixed, divided both across party lines and among the public.
I think they've revoked my privacy rights by doing that.
If it prevents me from getting blown up, then I'm all for the government, more or less doing what they reasonably should do.
The Obama administration is already under fire for seizing phone records and emails of Associated Press and other U.S. journalists.
It's time now for business, and for that I'm joined by Stephen Carroll. And we're going to start with the French president's visit to Japan, and he's there at an interesting time for Japan's economy.
Yeah, that's right. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, since he was elected last year, has been trying to end Japan's 2-decade-old economic slump with a massive fiscal and monetary stimulus plan. Now, the policies known as Abenomics have seen the value of the Japanese yen fall dramatically, which has made, of course, their exports cheaper. Now, during their news conference, President Hollande congratulated Mr. Abe on his efforts to restore competitiveness to the Japanese economy. Now, it's a very different strategy to what's being done in Europe, of course, where they're trying to cut spending with the austerity policies. And François Hollande said that while the effect of Abenomics is good for Europe, that the policy wasn't transferable. They wouldn't be able to do something similar here.
And how important is Japanese trade to France?
Well, Japan is France's 11th largest trading partner. Their trade relationship is worth over 14 billion euros, 7.5 billion euros worth of exports go from France to Japan every year, and 9 billion come in. Now, Japan is also the biggest destination for French investors in Asia, and the French president is hoping to encourage more investment in the other direction from Japanese investors into France while he's there.
Okay, and those economic policies put in place by Shinzo Abe, they've had a huge effect on shares in Japan. That's
right. The Nikkei in Tokyo has risen by more than 30% since the start of this year, but the market has been very vulnerable to changes in the value of the yen. We can see the Nikkei up slightly this morning. It had been down rather sharply earlier on. That's largely due to some turmoil on the foreign exchange markets yesterday. The value of the US dollar has weakened. You can see it. That's also hit trading on the other Asian share markets as well. The trading also going to be affected by jobs figures due out in the US later, which is being watched by many investors. Also, staying with the markets, and in Turkey, the comments by the Turkish Prime Minister refusing to back down over those protests had further effect on the market yesterday. They closed down 4.7%. But as you can see there, the Istanbul market has actually lost 20% of its value since a high that it hit in late May, largely due to the effect of those protests.
Let's head to Canada next, where the authorities have accused 2 major chocolate makers of price fixing.
That's right. Nestle and Mars and a network of independent wholesalers in Canada have been charged with a criminal conspiracy to fix the price of many leading chocolate bars. Now, Canada's Competition Authority says they were engaged in anti-competitive behaviour that harmed Canadian consumers. Now, the alleged price fixing is supposed to have taken place between 2002 and 2008, involving major chocolate brands like Kit Kat, Snickers, M&M's, Twix, all involved in this. Now, the authorities do say it's difficult to estimate how much this practice cost Canadian consumers. The companies say they're going to vigorously defend these charges, but if convicted, the heads of the companies could face fines of 10 million Canadian dollars or up to 5 years in prison.
Okay, let's get a quick look now at some of the day's other business news. The world's largest advertising agency has signed a deal with Twitter to access its information about consumer interests. WPP will use behavioral data collected by the microblogging site to help focus its ad campaigns. Earlier this year, the agency's chief Martin Sorrell had said that Twitter was more useful for public relations than for advertising.
China could be about to up the stakes in its trade spat with Europe. The French financial newspaper Les Echos is reporting that Beijing has threatened to impose import duties on luxury cars from Europe. It follows a complaint lodged with the Chinese government against European car makers. The report says the taxes would only apply to cars with over 2-litre engines, which would particularly hit German manufacturers.
And the number of French taxpayers who hold a foreign bank account has risen by 40% in a year. More than 100,000 people said they had an account abroad in their tax returns for 2012. The rise comes after a French government minister was forced to resign after he failed to declare a Swiss bank account. And finally, for some light relief, we're going to head to Greece, where there's a little bit of relief for unemployed people there.
Yeah, Greece's unemployment rate the highest in Europe at over 24%, according to Eurostat. But around 2,000 out-of-work Greeks were treated to a free performance of Wagner's opera The Flying Dutchman. The Greek National Opera's director said the scheme was to help open up opera to those who may not have been able to afford it, while acknowledging at the same time the effect the economic crisis has had on opera. It's not the first scheme that's helped open up the arts to those having difficulties in Greece, though last year the National Theatre was offering tickets in exchange for food. Very helpful for those that can't perhaps afford access to the arts. Let's listen to what one of them had to say.
It's really good for us, the unemployed that is. We're very sad that we're in this position, that they've brought us to this, that we're not even able to afford to go to the theatre. At least they offered this, so we can forget about our problems for a little while.
Stephen Carroll with the Business Update. Thank you very much for that. And it's time